welcome to Coffee with Joy. I'm so excited to have my girl D, the Money Chic, but we have a surprise. The name has changed, so we're going to talk about that. So we're going to allow her to introduce herself, get into the details. So excited to have my guest in the building. So we're going to jump right into it. So D, if you can explain tell people what you do a little, and then we're going to jump right in about money.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Joy. My name is Darvincia Warren. I am the Money Chic, CEO of Now Core, formerly DW Tax Preparation. We are a comprehensive tax and financial services firm where we take an educational approach so that we can create a realistic path to financial freedom.
Woo, woo, woo. So, of course, people, you see, we're talking about money, a conversation that many families don't like to have, correct?
Yes.
And why, in your field, your experience over time, why do you think families don't like to talk about money? What has been like your pros and cons about that?
I think in the underserved communities, the primary fear behind money is what we're used to seeing. And so, unfortunately, we only know what we know, right? And so I would never fault our parents, our grandparents, because they've taught us some amazing things, right? But again, we only know what we know. And the problem about it is not the lack of information, it's the lack of the right information. So we've been misinformed, whether it's from different areas of finance to life insurance, which most don't even relate to being an area of finance, but it's actually income protection. But that's one of the first ways that we as an underserved community were affected or impacted by this misinformation, because we had people walking around selling our families policies that they wouldn't purchase for their own families or didn't have for their own families. And then we only would find out when we lost a loved one and realized that they did not really have much to cover, whether they may be able to cover burial, but they may have a home or something like that. And most don't make these connections or put these things together. And so really the primary reason I think that the fear is there as it relates to money is just because we have not really had a positive role model as it relates to money, or someone to really educate us with the right information.
Wow. And as you talk about life insurance, because that's what some people assume that they have in their family, and then when it's time to go into the courts or front of a lawyer or to dispute it, they realize there's no money. Yes. They realize there's nothing's there. So what are your expertise in your area of financial? So that if anybody were to listen, if they say, okay, this is her strong expertise, even though you may know certain areas, but there's something that you gravitate to, what is your strong expertise?
So again, we focus on creating a full financial household. So the areas of expertise are tax, obviously credit, but we do not repair credit. We have a full DIY credit platform to show people how they can actually repair their credit on their own. Primarily, the reason for initiating that project was because there's so many credit repair agencies, and no offense to anyone, I support anyone whose goal is to help people, but unfortunately what I've seen in my experience with credit repair agencies is that people end up spending a lot of money and then they end up in the same position that they started. So we created a DIY platform to show people the tools and resources that they can use to easily, because most people think it's hard, repair their credit on their own. And then on the profitable side, because obviously this is a business and we do need to make money, right? So we do have a book on Amazon called The Secret to Fixing Your Own Credit that gives people the actual letters and the answers to the frequently asked questions as it relates to that. So that's the credit aspect of it. Life insurance, obviously, but we don't just sell life insurance. We educate, we teach people how life insurance works, and then allow them to make an informed decision. And then also connect it. I'm currently studying for my investment license, so I do not have it yet, but I have colleagues and business partners. So for me, the ultimate goal is financial freedom, right? So if someone comes to me on that journey, even if I can't directly offer them the service or the tool or resource to get them there, I'll make that connection. So even though it may not necessarily be a service that I offer, I can still help them put that financial household together and say, we can work on this, and this. And then when we get to this component, I'll connect you to this person. So again, we ultimately focus on really getting them to what those goals are, as opposed to focusing on getting a sale.
Wow. And it's so important, because I know that's something that all cultures lack, right?
Yeah.
We just know that there's a deficit in one. And of course, I do not have the statistics, so I will not name, but for lack of saying, we know cultures truly lack the education.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the foundation is.
Yeah.
You've been taught, save your money, but how do I save my money? How do I reward myself? How do I make sure that I am financial free and have a true understanding? Because the older you get, the harder it get if you don't have that foundation. So how do your company try to educate individuals on how to be better at saving?
I'm so glad you said that, because just like you said, there's a lot of different financial literacy workshops or programs, and then savings workshops that teach you how to quote unquote how to budget, right? And they tell you to save. And then another common phrase that you'll hear when it comes to budgeting and saving workshops is pay yourself first, right? And just like you said, they tell you save, budget, pay yourself first, but they're not really telling you how.
Right.
And the question that I'll ask you before I actually dive into the answer, because I love to myth bust,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So what I want to ask you first is, when they tell you to save, where do they tell you to save at?
Put it in the bank or under
the mattress, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we have that typical old school,
yes.
Put it under the mattress, right? Okay, and again, we only know what we know, so no fault, right? But that's why I'm here. I want to make sure that I'll say this all the time, and you'll hear it. You've heard it in another interview before. Shirley Chisholm said it. You can either choose to be a yeller and screamer, and that's all you'll ever do is yell and scream, or you can actually choose to be a part of the change. And so that's what I'm doing here. So let's get back to it, right?
Yes.
All right, so they tell you to save, they tell you to pay yourself first, and typically tell you, for example, because we know if it's under the bed, it's not growing at all, right? It's just sitting there. We know it'll be there when we come back,
right.
But we know it'll be exactly the way that we left it.
Yeah.
But when we save in the bank, we expect to get some sort of growth there, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we know, or we may or may not know, but the average percentage rate, or interest rate rather, that banks give us nationally is 1% or less, okay? And when we think about percentage, because I'm gonna break it down. When we think about a percent just represents out of 100. That's what percentage represents. So, and the interest rate represents the growth, the rate of speed that our money is growing at, right? Okay, so we put those together, okay? If the interest rate represents the rate of speed that our money is growing, and the percentage represents how much out of 100, and our money is growing at 1% or less, is our money growing fast or slow?
It's going slow.
Extremely slow, right? Yeah. But I'll take it a step further, okay? So they give us 1% or less average. Now you because there's going to be someone, oh no, my financial institution gives me 3%. Okay, there are a very few that will give you that 3%, and even 3 out of 100 is that fast or slow?
That's fast. I mean slow.
That's still slow, right? Okay, so for those that got excited about that, right? All right.
Let me pause a second. Darvincia got me over here doing math, y'all. I'm very interested. I'm like, literally, it's like a verbal word problem. Like, okay, and it's great. Oh my God, this is a wealth of knowledge.
I'm telling you, and so I'm going to make sure that I simplify this, because I want to make sure that everybody receives this, because this is vital, right? All right, so they give us 1% or less. We know that's how fast our money grows, right? They take, and I'm gonna come back to that 1%, but I just want to tell you exactly how it works.
Please do.
They take our money that we put into the bank, they reinvest it into the global economy for a minimum of, say, 18%. Right? And then they receive, and then that's compounding, right? Because compound interest, your money grows faster. And we're going to come back to that in a second. So now our money is growing faster for the bank than it is for ourselves. Want me to tell you how? I will.
Yeah.
Okay? It's something as simple as the rule of 72. And what that says is if you take your interest rate and divide it into the number 72, it'll tell you how many years it's going to take for your money to double. Right? So while that may seem like a really difficult equation, if we know the bank's giving us 1%, we divide that into 72, that's 72 years.
Right.
That is going to take for our money to double. So just for example, let's just say we have someone who has just had a child, right? And they want to start putting some money to the side for the baby to go to college when they turn 18. And they set aside $10,000, right? At 18, right, when it's time for that child to go to school, Has that $10,000 grown to anything?
No.
It hasn't done anything because we have 72 years to wait. Do we have 72 years?
We sure do.
For our money to grow? Absolutely not. And shouldn't we get that 18%
correct
return on our money? Right?
Yes.
So that is what we educate. We educate people on how to get that return on their own money, and also on the flip side, how to protect it properly with the income protection, which is the life insurance.
Wow. I'm gonna let that sit for a while, you all, because I look at we enter into a math class, and which is a simple arithmetic, people. Simple arithmetic. It's like rate over speed equals time. You know the formula. But I mean, that is so great to hear and to know, because it is, to me, and I'm probably, you could surely contest that, it's the lack of knowledge. You know, it's not to say that someone who has $1 million, someone who has 10, it's all about the lack of knowledge.
Absolutely.
And of course, and then to add to that is to incorporate yourself around people who are, you know, knowledgeable about money.
Yes.
Because if you're around people who spend money, it's going to, you know, put you in that realm of just spending your money when you should be saving, but how to save, how to make that money grow.
Yes.
And I think that's just where it is, how to make that money grow. You broke that down very well. Oh my goodness, like, please make sure y'all go back on the playback. It's truly, truly important.
Yes.
So as you're teaching this, are these just workshops, or do you have classes that you offer to teach individuals on how to be financially savvy? Because like I stated, it's the lack of knowledge that brings people into trying to make their money grow.
Absolutely.
And then when they come of age, just by choice, you know, by force, the older you get, the stubborn you get.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the math doesn't work as quick, or life just compounds itself and just takes over.
Absolutely.
So how do you work with the individual, whether a one-on-one or group? Is it in class or is it over time? So how do you
So again, that's a great question. It really just depends on the audience. Okay. So we do have individual, what we call I call it a financial GPS.
Okay.
It's a user-friendly, interactive sort of Q&A tool that asks certain questions that relate specifically to people's actual goals. Because the thing about financial freedom, it looks different for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And so your financial freedom plan is not going to look like the financial freedom plan of someone else. So the very first thing that we do is find out what your goals are, what your financial freedom goals are, because life, like you said, often causes us to forget about the things that we really want for ourselves, because we have to focus on the things that we have to focus on, right? But our goal is to create a realistic path to the things that you actually want in life. So that's where it starts. You wouldn't think that, but in order for me to create a plan for you, I have to know where you are looking to go. So that's why I call it a financial GPS. When we think of traveling, whether it's local or domestic, international, we rely on an itinerary, right? And so that's what we do for individuals. We create sort of a financial GPS, an itinerary of what would be needed to achieve their goals. We teach people what's called a PIN number. Now, most people don't even know what that is. We all know a PIN number, right? When we go to the bank and we enter that number, but most don't know what the PIN number is, and that's their financial independence number. That's the dollar amount that you would need to have when you retire so that you do not go back to work, right? It looks very different when you look at the income that you're earning now as opposed to the age that you want to be when you retire, when you think about inflation, right? $30 today will spend like $70 in 10 to 15 years from now. Right. And so our jobs and the 9 to 5 income that we have, or even if we're speaking about our businesses, if we don't forecast for that growth, then we end up falling behind and ended up having to go back to work after we retire because we have not structured ourselves for the inflation that we need our money to grow along with. So I don't know if I got like a little off with it.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. I think people need to understand it because, of course, and I'd probably say we all been there, right? When you're 18, you just living life, you're trying to maneuver, and you see it on the memes. People said, I saw this one that says, hey, I apologize. I'm 40 for calling you old when you was 40.
Oh, yes.
So now it's like when you come of age, you don't realize what your parents or older people are going through. So when you come of that age, you're like, wow.
And that's also the other reason why, which is an extension to the answer to your question, we have the FinLit workshops. And that's FinLit, which is clearly just financial literacy, but for the youth. It speaks to their language, right, so that they can relate, because we understand that's where it starts, right? Most often, children are introduced to money by way of debt, by way of credit, right? Because as soon as a child goes to college, they start to receive what? A bunch of different credit card offers, right? And so even down to educating as it relates to credit when it comes to the youth or college students, right? That credit is just a root word for credibility, right? And that is what it's supposed to be utilized for. It's not supposed to be used to put you in a deficit when you're just getting introduced or establishing a relationship with money. And so if they can grasp that concept early on and understand that early on, when they get those credit card applications, they're turning them away. They're able to put their shield of protection up and be able to see $1 million before they retire, right? Because retirement is not an age. It's where you decide that you want to end that career goal and set your life up so that you can achieve that. And it's possible to do. And so that we essentially have different levels where we meet you at, even senior individuals, because that's another thing too. And so being in the tax industry, you'd be surprised how much it shows me or educates me about a person's financial household. And it allows me to see whether they're saving for retirement, if they have a retirement account, if they've even got any growth yield on it. Like, you'd be surprised how many seniors come to me for their taxes and they have, a CD or something and it has maybe $10,000 in it. And this is a senior. So you think about the amount of time that they probably put more into this account than they've actually gained growth on. And so it puts me in a position where I'm like, I know I have to attack it much earlier, because now they don't have much time to get compound interest. I mean, I can give them some sort of growth from here, but it just allows me to see that it's so much more needed in our youth. But we tailor our services in as far as the educational side, so that we are. And then also we offer services to teams and employee groups, because most don't make connection to mental health or employee retention with the connection to finances or the relationship with money. And so if we can make that connection in the employment scene and show employers that if their employees have a better relationship with money and are able to save more, are able to make what they have grow in a more efficient way, they're going to be happier when they come to work. They're going to stay around longer, right? The mental health cases are going to decline. These are things that are all connected, and most don't make those connections. And so I'm not just unconventional in the way that I show up in my appearance. I'm unconventional in my message and my mission as well. So I'm going to make connections in the entertainment realm, where you see so many celebrities filing for bankruptcy, right? Or in the mental health and wellness field, where you don't see a connection made between health and finance, or just various different industries. I'm going to be that. I'm not going to be the yeller and screamer. I'm going to be the doer.
Right. Oh. Ooh, it is so much needed. Everything you said, I was just in my head, just like, yeah. And it was one thing that you said that was so profound, where, retirement is not an age. Even when people try to say, I'm retiring at age 40. Well, just hearing that, it's like, breaking that myth.
What does it look like?
Correct. You shouldn't have to add. It's almost like, why do I have to add that I'm a black strong woman? Why can't I just be a strong woman? So just breaking that myth that you don't have to put an age, and you can retire at any age. That's right. Of course, that just comes with us by force. But to say that I'm gonna retire at 40, that's a mental thing. Probably you want to tell yourself that, right? To keep yourself on target. But just saying, hey, I retired. And I think a lot of people look at retirement and to say, okay, I need to be 60 or 70 years old, but you retired at any age. So that's great to hear. And I mean, just so many nuggets that you have just dropped. And literally, I'm just sitting here like, wow, Joy, get your stuff together, girl.
Well, that's what we're here for. And I think that's another thing too that makes my mission such a joyous experience, is because I'm passionate about it. I came into this industry because of my lack of financial resources, or my financial struggle, right? Like, let me be very transparent, right? I'm a single mother. I've been on my own since I was 14 years old, and struggle was definitely a part of my story, right? And I did not, again, have any financial role models or anyone to look up to. And, it just wasn't a common conversation. And so it's personal for me.
Yeah.
And so when I make connections to people, no matter where they are, and so while this information is extremely needed for the underserved community, statistics show that it's the country as a whole that is in a deficit when it comes to finances, right? The average U.S. household does not have $1,000 in savings, and that's the average U.S. household, not the average underserved household, right? And I can speak some statistics for you, right?
Yeah.
But and so just understanding that, you know, I just feel so good about the journey and knowing that lives are going to be impacted and changed, and that this is information that can be translated through generations, and we can really change the dynamic of the conversation of generational wealth. Something else that you'll hear me talk about often too is how, you know, growing up, we used to joke about the trust fund baby, right? That was a joke, right? Yeah. And it was only because it was an unfamiliar term and we just didn't really know what it was. And I think if we did, we would be wanting to find out how we could be one. That's a great thing to be. Yeah. That means that someone before you was thinking about you before you were even here, and that is the person not only I want to be, but that is the type of person that I want to be able to create through the education and resources that we offer.
Wow. It's amazing. I'm just sitting at awe, and I think, because again, I just want to make sure that everyone understands Coffee with Joy, of course, normalizing the difficult conversations, right? And these are conversations that I know households across the nation do not have, right? Yeah. Do not have. So trying to make sure that bring just awareness. I know we can't talk about everything. I know that we can't have everything in place. We can be able to express, but just to constantly keep talking about it. Just keep being around it. And to even go back to the youth with the school, they don't even have, they don't even talk about that in school.
It's not in the curriculum.
And back when, you know, we were in school, they had home ec, they had vocational. When people know they probably can't go to college, but they were very smart, probably that wasn't the direct route. It's probably going to be a roundabout, meaning that, hey, I could do hair and nails in school and later get my business degree. And then the process, how to understand the finance, right? In the midst, while I'm still a child. And I think now some counties are trying to get that whole way, trying to teach them financial literacy, trying to get that to them. But it needs to start in elementary. It needs to have a complete understanding in elementary. And I think as the child, once the individual graduates from high school, it's which way do I go? Because you've been structured for so long. Now, which direction do I go? And that's how the money becomes lack. That's how the money doesn't. Now I'm broke, and now I'm up here trying to. This is like you say, the mental, the criminal starts to take place. Everything starts to happen.
It all ties in. And I'm so glad you said criminal, because I didn't mention that, but that too. Yeah, it is all connected. It's all connected.
And you stated we was, of course, God is good. We had some great issues earlier, but and you were saying that you changed your name. Why did you change your name? Because I thought it was such an awesome.
Yes, thank you. So, you know, we just celebrated 12 years in December of last year. So thank you. 12 years of DW tax preparation. And for those that don't know, which is pretty obvious, the D and the W is for Darvincia Warren, right? Tax preparation. But the primary reason why I changed it from DW tax preparation to core is because I wanted people to know, first and foremost, I did not want to limit ourselves. And because we are looking to establish strategic partnerships, and we're looking, and that's by way of collaborations, but also even team members that we bring on, we want to make sure that the core principles of what the foundation of our organization is represented. And I feel that we were diminishing that in the name DW Tax Prep. I think that it would let people think that we were a tax firm, and it's so much bigger than that, right? It's about the full financial freedom package. And so core, to me, and I'm big on signs, you know, I for a long time I ignored signs, right? And, you know, I'm very spiritually led. But I did ignore those signs, and I got to a place where I'm just like, I'm no longer ignoring signs.
Right.
And after I made that decision mentally, because that's something about me too, I'll sit on something, I'll do research on something for quite some time before it is revealed to the public.
Yeah.
Right. And after I made that decision mentally, I started to see signs all over the place, whether it was the word core or an actual apple core, which is a part of the logo that, you know, that I've designed for the brand. But so ultimately, it just represents, when you think about what we are and what we do, we understand, whether anyone else does or not, we understand that it is, when you think of the definition of core, it's the centermost important thing, whatever it's connected to, right? And so we aren't the centermost important thing, but what we have is, and when it comes to that financial freedom journey. And so I think it really reflects what we're passionate about and what this mission is.
Wow. Oh my goodness, this is so much. We have to do a part 2. Like literally, we have to do a part 2.
I'm here for that.
Yes, we probably have to do a virtual, but I would love to have just a part 2, just a little bit more, only because this is information people need to hear. Yeah. And especially, of course, I don't want to limit to us, but to our Black families. Yes. That's who I know are hurting the most. Absolutely. And of course, we could bring out so much statistics across all mental, criminal, health, you name it. And that money is in all of them. Yes. The reason why they do, or reason why certain things happen.
Absolutely.
Money is the foundation of the lack of.
Yes.
And it is just it needs to be a daily conversation, no matter what. And so it's so great to have you on here, Darvincia. I'm just so excited. So before we end the show, is there anything, how do you keep yourself going? How do you keep yourself motivated as a scripture or prayer or affirmation? How do Darvincia keep herself going along her journey?
All of the above, okay? So I want to make sure that I give a shout out to my mentors and my coaches. Definitely can't do it alone, and that's something that I say all the time. If I claimed it on my own, I would be lying. As I mentioned too, very spiritually led. It starts there. I often ask God to lead me in whatever it is that I'm doing, whether it's speaking or an actual action. And so I try. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. You wanna let me hit pause?
Yes.
It's okay. It's
Thank
okay.
You. That's fine. I'm so sorry about that.
Look at things happen, child. Things happen.
Technology.
It's okay. Yes. I'll blur this part out.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So, where were we?
So any affirmation, like you say you don't give no, and that's great to hear. You're not alone, so that's for sure.
Absolutely. And then I have a custom affirmation board. It like lights up and it tells me all of these great things, and then at the very end it says I am Darvincia. So it's just a daily reminder. It sits right on my vanity. I see it every morning, and again, very spiritual. So even in those times, because we're human, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like when you, and I said this earlier, when you declare greatness, right, you get hit with a ton of bricks.
Right.
And that's just what it is. And so I am human. I have those moments where, I may feel like I've been hit with a ton of bricks, but those are the moments when I draw closer to my higher power, and that's where I can find, my solace and my peace. And then really just surrounding myself with great people like you, and really, honestly,
somebody on the call. Somebody on the call. It's okay. You're still on it. Yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. I really appreciate you.
Darvincia, thank you so much. Thank you all for tuning in. I am your favorite host, Coffee with Joy. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. And if you heard Darvincia, information will be below so that you all can follow her if you have any questions or comments or any concerns, or you just like to know more about how to be financial savvy, or just to understand how to detour, how to go about, or just the understanding. This is your woman right here. Yes. She knows everything. Of course, earlier we did this whole math equation mentally. So I promise you, she could break it down for you even further, or just help you and guide you. Yes. So please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow if you like to patronize Coffee with Joy. Please make sure that you do so on the cue cards. And we look forward to seeing you. And as you always know, if it's a weekday or weekend, it is Coffee with Joy. Until then, you all live life on purpose. Have a blessed day or blessed night. Thank you.